Good evening, John Augustine back again. Belfast. We were up in Belfast. Myself and my late wife went up there. Uh, she's not a mission. She's her fifth anniversary was this year in July, and but we were up in Belfast. We stayed in a hotel there. We were there for 3 nights, and we visited quite a few places. It was kind of relatively peaceful, and we found people very helpful. Um, we saw an old time village and all the rest of it that was a replica of what it was like, say, the 1800s or something, even before it. Very well done. And chickens and all, and kind of the type of houses. It was very interesting. I forget what it was called, Clare or something. You wanted the train out to it. And then there was other ones that we visited. We had coffee in the Europa Hotel, which suffered a lot of damage over the years with the troubles. And but Belfast, I saw a film this evening in the library, and it was called Belfast, and it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. Now he's good in my book. He's a good director, and he's a great actor as well, Kenneth Branagh. And it was the Belfast accent, and it was situated in 1969. I'll tell you, you'd bring a tear to your eye at times. It focused on a Catholic family and Catholics in the streets, and they were all. It started off with them all playing, and they were outdoors. I remember when I was young, and especially when we were out like the way they were in Belfast, playing. You wouldn't be stuck in the house, yet your house wasn't too far away. So it reminded me of that. And there was girls playing and swinging around lampposts, and I remember that being done, and someone squealing tires and then doing the hopscotch and all that. You don't see much of that now. Poor dippers are not outdoors the way they used to be. So it was great joy in that. And I remember when I was kind of young too, doing the hopscotch with the young ones, because there was none of this separation. You were, you were. It was just great, and this film reminded me the way it started. But then the sort of the way that the Unionists, shall we say, those savages, they come down a crowd of evil-looking yokes with with battering windows, and all the rest of the people were in, and it was quite, and their windows bashed in, and then they had a car that they must have put something into it and sent it down, and it exploded and caused damage too. And they were quite they were quite evil, and I think some poor children were probably more than that, because they didn't have time to get in. I know in a particular family that was highlighted, and was very good the way it was done. It was very. I liked the North of Ireland accent from the Catholic side. It has a openness and a generosity to it that I don't see in the fit from the other side, especially the DUP. They don't have any of that kind of quality of decency, and then their orange parades are just a dread and insulting to Catholics. They don't seem to have any respect. They have hard old eyes and that kind of thing, and you nearly know by the way they talk that where they're coming from. You wouldn't want to be an expert. But the film did great and focused on the family, because there was a granny and a grandfather in it, and there was no difference between anybody talking. There wasn't this question, and I remember it too. There was no difference when you were young between anybody that was older and that. That type of way. There was all sort of connection, and they were wondering how you were getting on and that, and giving you advice. Yeah, that type of thing. It was lovely. But it bring tear to your eye. It brought a tear to my eye, I'm afraid. It started at 6 and it was over a little after 7:30. But it was one great film. with the accident, and then that started off, and then they put barricades up, the locals and that, and the family. They were a great family. There was something lovable about them. This Catholic family and there was a young kid that had a major part in it, and you could see him in school, and then they'd often have to change places, and he had a little girlfriend or that. But the father, uh, you know, there was other ones in it that were sort of wanting to sort of control the area, would say Republicans, IRA types, and they were kind of bullies. And there was this family that were putting pressure on the husband and sometimes on the kids. And one of them had a beard and he marked out his kid, and there was a man sitting there just having whatever he was having, and that. And the next thing he hit him and knocked him into his door, and there was no more. You didn't see the man or anything. But these ones that go into that end of it, they have an agenda that's not conducive kind of thing, to the sort of people that don't want trouble. And there was trouble in some parts, but not now as much. It was the family and all the rest of it. And the husband, he was very good in that particular family, a young man and himself and his wife, and they were kind of well matched. And the husband wanted to go to Sydney, Australia, because you could go them times for nothing and you'd be put up. I could have went myself to Australia in '73 when there was the troubles was here, and I had a good job, but I could see that it was going to badly affect employment, and I was good job, high up enough, but worked for a big company with nearly 1,000 employees. But it closed because there was strikes and there was this uncertainty, and then there was troubles in the 6 counties, caused major problems, and strikes here and all the rest of it. It was a very it was good, and then there was this. So anybody in business, and there was petrol strikes as well, bank strikes. Younger ones wouldn't remember all this, but certainly I went through it. And so did others that were in the workplace and working in business. Civil servants might have been protected in that way, but when you're in business, and no matter how good the business was or many good, you were caught out, and it happened to me a couple of times with big international companies. Well, when I say international, Irish, and with exports and all the rest of it, and there you are, they're closed down, and suddenly. The job that you had and the exports that you were making and all the rest of it didn't count for anything. Funny enough, that's the way it was. But you survived and you got something else and all the rest of it. But you'd have this valley period that you didn't choose, because my certainty was working from, I was about 18 and a half when I got my first job. So, and I continued in that area. But Belfast, I was digress a bit. But I'm trying to focus on the times I was in it. In 1969 in Belfast, it was very well done by Kenneth Branagh with their accents. They didn't have a kind of false accent. They were genuine from that area, and there was something lovable about them, and the whole lot of them in the street. And the grandfather and the granny, but the grandfather died in the end. He was in the hospital, and then the granny, like they were 50 years married, and uh, the grandfather was at one time out his bird glass, and I said, "Well, I never knew what you were saying." And I never, so we had never had an argument. It was kind of good that way, and they had an outside toilet. No, they weren't going to the toilet, but to be out in this kind of backyard talking. There was something lovable about the film. Kenneth Branagh captured that Belfast, and I was wondering what it was going to be about when I went to it, but by goodness, it was a film that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it opened my eyes, because they're still the people that caused the problems then are still causing the problems, like the DUP. they're trying to bring down the assembly because Sinn Féin will be the first minister, and they're not that riles them. You can visualise how they're what they're like because they are just desperate. And apparently, just somebody was talking. They said Theresa May, when she was prime minister in Britain, uh, she thought she was going to win a majority, and she called an election. She didn't. She lost seats, and the only crowd that she could do business with in the street talk were the Europeans, and their modern was the Unionists. She didn't know, and she mustn't have got the right advice because when she did it with them, they were so demanding that her eyes was open because you couldn't please them. The unions, no. They're always want, and the DUP are yapping about protocol. They know they probably wouldn't have to spell it. And so they caused trouble. And their forebears caused that trouble in 1969. They started it by burning down Catholics in their homes and that. Oh, they were desperate. And then before that, a fellow called Gusty Spence had a place called a romper room, and Catholics were so ill treated and murdered in that place. It was just desperate. So, but we didn't see that now, thank God. But it wound up that the husband wanted to go to Sydney and the wife didn't. But then they did. And the little fella had a little girlfriend in the school, and there was nothing like it. But he gave her, the father gave him flowers. He went over to there and gave her flowers, and then she's looking at them. It was just good. And so it finishes with the father and mother and the two boys. The little fella that had a major part in it. He was one great actor. He was, that little fella. He must have gone on for good things. I hope he did. And they were going in the bus to the airport and going to Sydney. I thought it was lovely. So that's Belfast. If you ever get a chance to look at it, go to it. It'll open your eyes. It'll open my eyes. But I had a fair idea about that place because it was trouble there for a long time, and uh, even those DUP type of people bombed Dublin as well. Come down in Talbot Street, and I knew a man that was murdered there. He was a buyer, a very nice man for a company I used to supply in the pharmaceutical end of it. Yeah, there you are. So that was the Belfast, and it was an eye opener. And there was the kind of music it should show them looking at films, cowboy films, and High Noon, Gary Cooper, and Princess Grace when she was an actor. Kelly, what was her name? She was a great actor. I liked her in films. She was in that one, High Noon, and that song was played, and the rest was, and there was interesting. Then there was other little things in it that was great. You just a little fella going to school, he got through bars and he could get through, and off he went. And it was kind of like a Catholic school. You could see that they were all. It was just good, good. So there you are. I thought I'd share that with you. And if you get a chance to see it, see it. Kenneth Branagh, as I say, directed it, and it was one great film. There was something about it that was uplifting in some ways, even though I shed a tear. Because, when you see things, sometimes it does that, doesn't it? We're all human at the end of the day, aren't we? We haven't got this stiff upper lip that certain other parties have. And they think it's a boastful thing. It's not. You never hear a conversation with them that's uplifting. Their accents is cold. Whereas the people in the Catholics portrayed in that film, they were warm-hearted to a degree that was just lovely. So bye now, and enjoy the evening. I intend to put the feet up after this. Bye now.